In this video, let's talk about how to engage as a sports parent with a coach who you think is not doing a great job. All right, if you're new here, I'm Dan Blewett. I'm a former pro baseball player, and I used to own a baseball, softball, and sports performance academy. So I've dealt with lots of teams, players, and parents of all ages. And as a coach and as the head of a pretty elite travel baseball organization, I've had a lot of engagements with parents, and there's definitely a right way and a wrong way to do this. So let's talk through some of the things you should do and should not do when engaging with a coach about something you found concerning or are upset about. So number one, don't run around complaining to other parents. Definitely poll other parents to see, hey, what's some context that maybe I'm missing? Look for clarification, ask their opinion, but don't go off grumbling and being disgruntled in the bleachers, because it's probably going to get back and it's going to spread a lot of negativity. Look for clarification first, ask for other opinions, because there's probably a lot you don't know. If this was like a playing time decision or something like that, there's always a lot more than you don't know, and it's usually not a conspiracy or something like that. It definitely is a good first start to just ask for context to those around you, but don't run to complaining. Number two, if you're considering engaging with a coach, you want to have a conversation, you're upset about something, ask yourself this first. What can the coach fix and what can they not fix? Is this just a personality issue, or is this something that maybe they're seeing something incorrectly? Is there actually an action item that they can follow? If there's not an action item, if you just want to wear them out about their coaching style, that's not a great way to go about it, but giving them constructive feedback in a gentle way can be really beneficial. But if you're like, hey, this is just a kind of a low energy coach and I wish they'd be more rah-rah, there's probably not a fix for that. Ask yourself if the coaching decision is just a stylistic difference or if it's actually a bad decision. And I'll give you an example. There are coaches who are very gentle and calm and kind when they interact with their players. And there are also coaches who are much tougher on players, who are much shorter, who are very, corrective, and they'll be like, hey, this is how it needs to be done, blah, blah, blah. Those can be style differences without either coach being abusive, right? And you can be hard on players and demand a lot and be really, firm with feedback and firm with, with criticism, whatever. There's a big line between being tough on players and being abusive, right? And I think really when that line is crossed is when it becomes, a personal attack. You're stupid. How could you do that? Stuff like that. Whereas that was the wrong thing to do in that situation. You've got to be better. That's just stuff that happens, right? I've told players, you've got to focus, you've got to be better, and you've got to be better than that in that situation. But I have not told players, how could you be so stupid? That's abusive. Telling them they've got to be better and they've got to focus and that they should not have made that mistake. They knew better. That's not abusive. So make sure you're understanding, coaches have different styles. And you might not agree with their style, but if I'm a pretty tough coach, but I'm not abusive, that's just the coach that you've got. I'm not necessarily going to be this gentle, flowery, everyone, it's always okay kind of guy. I might be just, hey, this is how it is. And you might have another coach who's very much gentle and, all that. Just make sure coaches aren't going to necessarily change their personality. So make sure, again, this is something that they can fix or that they can't fix. Number four, definitely give yourself some time to cool off before you're engaging with a coach. It's usually not the best time to do it after a game. Everyone's ready to go home. It's a long time commitment for everyone, right? Being at the field, everyone's got a life to live. Now, sometimes it can't wait, but most of the time it can. So give yourself some time to cool off. Maybe you go home, talk to your spouse, talk to someone else, bounce it off another coach who you trust or a friend who you trust the next day, and then engage and try to set up a meeting or a phone call. And that's my next thing, is try not to do these on the field right in the moment. Try to have a conversation with a coach, especially if it's something where you need to give negative feedback or you really want to discuss something that's made you upset. Try to do that somewhere else where you have time and you're not in front of the kids and you're not making it known that you're angry or any of that stuff. It's best to have a separate conversation. Could be over phone, could be over Zoom, could be just, any other time. But it's usually best to wait it out and then talk face to face when everyone's heads are cooler. And again, you're not in front of the players. No one's pressed for time. And you can spend the moment, going back and forth without all those other things in the way. And my next tip, which is super important, you have to do this. Enter the conversation by giving your coach the benefit of the doubt and by assuming there's a lot you don't know. I'll give you an example from the baseball world. There's been many times where I've taken a player out of a game. Say I yanked a pitcher who's doing really well after 1 or 2 innings. And his parents are like, what the heck? Why would he take him out? He's been doing great. This is ridiculous. What a bad decision. He put this other pitcher in. How could they do that to my kid? And they're angry. Well, you didn't know that your son was doing great. Obviously, I saw it too. And I took him out because I need to save him because he's going to get tomorrow off. And then I need him to pitch 2 more innings the day after that. Or this kid, the lead has gotten so big and I wanted to pull your kid out so I can get 2 innings from this other kid who's not as good, who needs to pitch. And this is a good time to do it because the game is like, 10-2 right now. So understand that there's always context that you probably lack because you can't read my mind if I'm your coach. There's just a lot of moving pieces, especially in the tournament format, which is the way lots and lots of youth sports are played now. In the tournament format, there's lots of projecting what's going to happen in the future. Okay, I'm speaking just as a baseball coach, but hey, this pitcher pitched this day. We need to get 1 or 2 more innings out of him in 2 days from now. So how can we do that? And I need to make sure everyone gets their playing time. I need to make sure everyone's rested. And I need to make sure everyone's getting their reps and their bats and all this stuff. There's a lot of moving parts and you might not understand in the moment why I did what I did. And so that's why you really need to enter the conversation from a humble perspective. Say, hey coach, I know you've got a lot going on and I initially felt a little bit upset when you took my son out, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it that I didn't understand. Could you just help fill me in with the details? I just want to understand that decision. And, if you could help me, because I can't read your mind, I would just really appreciate it. If someone came to me that way, I'd say, yeah, look, I took your son out because I need to get this kid, blah, blah, blah. We would talk about it. But make sure you enter and not just assume that what I did was a conspiracy or was malicious or because I don't like your kid or because, they weren't doing what I wanted them to do. It's usually not that stuff. Sometimes it is. It's almost never a conspiracy. It's almost never this big negative thing that you think it is. But most of the time, there's just like lots of other factors. So really enter the conversation with grace, with humility, and remember that you don't know what the coach was thinking. And lastly, and this is so important, enter the conversation with an empathetic tone and be kind and be gentle. Because again, you don't know what I was thinking if I was your coach and why I made a decision that upset you. But assume, for the sake of our relationship, that everything was positive and be gentle. If you need to criticize me for something, do it the same way you would do it, a kid. Not to say that I'm a child and I can't take feedback, because I can, but as a coach, our job is hard. We have to deal with umpires, we have to deal with parents, we have a lot of logistics. Everyone has expectations and no one is ever happy. So the more hassles I have to deal with, it just becomes a lot. So give your coaches a break. Understand that they're people, they're not perfect either. And if you can say, look, I know you didn't mean to yell at my kid and take the tone you took with him or her, but I just felt like, she works really hard and I wish you would address her maybe just in a little bit of a, more respectful manner. I know you're a good coach and you mean well, and I think maybe you just slipped up this time, but, I just would really appreciate it if you'd talk to my kid in a little bit of a, more gentle tone in the future. That's a reasonable way to approach, conversation where maybe I talked to your kid the wrong way, right? So just really try to be as cool and calm and humble when you take these engagements with a coach, because it's really, really hard to bounce back if you just walk through their door and start criticizing and assuming and berating them, because coaches are underpaid. Their time that they take it's so much out of your schedule. It's a lot of logistics and you're dealing with lots of parents who are often angry, which is the point of this video. So really, even if the coach, has gotten on your bad side, be as gentle and give them as much grace as you possibly can until proven otherwise. All right. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the description below or the comments below. I'd love to talk more about your experience dealing with coaches in youth sports. All right. Subscribe to the channel below, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you here in the next video.